Hi, this is Frei, Director of Business and Finance for the Sun Prairie Area School District, and going to give a report on the preliminary budget for 23-24. So lots of things to go over today. Typically my reports aren't maybe this long, but there is a lot of stuff to talk about with the budget. We haven't had an in-depth budget conversation with the school board for a while, so I won't read over all 20 items that we're going to do, but again, just realize that this report will be longer than maybe a normal budget report. So let's start off budget, and we have a tentative agreement between the legislators and the governor. Um, that increase is a $325 revenue limit increase per student. There's a large increase in equalized aid, but remember that equalized aid only goes down to reduce property taxes. It's not meant or can't be used for ongoing operating expenses. There's a very minimal increase in special education, not nearly what we need for special education aid reimbursement, not nearly what the governor said that we would get. And really the last bullet's the main thing, that the $325, while it is an increase to our revenue limit, it does not nearly keep up with inflation or the loss of the revenue cap that we've had over the last 2 years of zero increase. So 325 for this year, 325 for next year is not nearly keeping up with inflation. And that is kind of, hopefully we tried to show with this chart, and this does not include the current 325 and 325, but it goes up through last fiscal year. And you can see inflation, if we would have got normal increases tied to inflation, we would have about $3,235 more to spend than where we're at with a revenue cap. So again, not anywhere close to keeping up with inflation. And you can see the source on this is the Legislative Fiscal Bureau. So that's the state budget. Again, not nearly where we thought it would be, but we do have to move forward. We have, in the last few years, used strategic-based budgeting. We identify our goals. We try to tie it to the strategic plan. The senior leader budget team really starts way back in September to work on items that will be included in the budget. We have a very in-depth budget calendar, which is linked in here, and the school board approved that, I think, back last November, but that calendar's attached to this. We continue to use comparison data from Forecast 5, and you'll see some of that data in this presentation. And we also use two different budget forecast models, Robert W. Baird and Forecast 5. So when we talk about strategic budget items, we really try to answer these 10 questions. I won't go through all 10 questions, but let's just, number 4, is professional development needed? So if we add an item, do we need to do PD for that? Number 8, who's the cabinet leader of the item? So again, you can see the questions that we really focus on when we're adding strategic things to our budget, and answer those 10 questions. So through that process, which I said started last September with senior leaders, these are the 7 items that came through that process that will be added to this year's budget. Change in COLA adjustment for teachers. Remember, this was a big discussion in negotiations with teachers last year. Was their raise COLA based on their base of the teachers, or was it based on their individual? So we have switched that to individual, which is what the teachers wanted a year ago, but that has a big cost increase. So in this case, $440,000 for that change. So that's a big increase to our budget to do it that way. We're shifting our bilingual coordinator position. We provide a lot of professional development money above the COLA adjustment for all employees. You can see the amount for that. We've added 3 days to the support staff calendar. So that's in cost. So that those extra days I obviously get paid for, $135,000 for that cost. We're increasing the social workers at East Side and West Side High School, or East and West High School. The director of communications have been reclassified from, or has been reclassified from admin support to admin for $20,000. And the McKinney Vento, which is coordinator, above what the grant allows, and the grant we thought was going to go away. We did get some grant dollars, but we had to add some money to that. So total increase for strategic budget items of about $961,000. So revenue limit calculation, again, it's very important for school districts all across the state of Wisconsin, where we have what's called a per spending amount times our 3-year membership gives us our revenue limit. As I mentioned at the start, the state is increasing that revenue limit on a per student spending by $325 this year. That revenue limit is really our source of money for programs and services throughout the district. And that is then shared between local taxes and equalized aid when you have a revenue limit amount. So that 3-year membership count, which includes summer school, we have a large summer school program in Sun Prairie, as you know. But you can see over the last 3 years, our membership has declined, actually pretty linear, has gone down 10 kids each year, again, includes summer school. So our 3-year average is 8,264 members. And just for your information, a 4-year-old student counts as a 0.6 member. So a big factor of the revenue limit, as you've hopefully picked up on, is our enrollment. So our preliminary budget is based on a decrease of 9 students. That 9 students comes from the University of Wisconsin report, which was reported to the school board in December, and that whole report is linked in here. So basically a 9-student decrease would decrease our membership just slightly. And again, that's actually been our trend for just the last few years. So on a graph going back 10 years, you can see that for the first 5 years of this graph, we had steady growth of 100 to 200 students a year. And then for the last 5 years now, we've been at a small decline each year. And again, we're projecting that decline to continue, just a slight decline for next year. As always, we'll monitor enrollments up to their 3rd Friday count to see where we're going to be. So equalized aid is a big part of the revenue cap. We just got on July 1st our equalized aid projection from DPI. That amount will be finalized on October 15th, but DPI is estimating that Sun Prairie's equalized aid will go up 4.7% or $2.6 million. Remember, when you hear the state talk about a big increase in state funding, that this increase in equalized aid, while it helps out reduce the local tax obligation, it does not increase our spending authority. So just keep that in mind, because that gets thrown out there a lot. General fund revenue, again, just keep reminding people that we do have a $325 increase to our revenue limit amount. So if you've heard me say that a couple times now, we will continue to use the remaining ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 federal COVID money. Probably about $2.5 million. So 23-24 budget will use ESSER money. That ESSER money will run out after next year. The current budget uses $500,000 from assigned fund balance for professional educator pay. So when we had the operating referendum that passed, remember the first 3 years of that, a lot of that money went for professional educator pay to get them up to Dane County average. We did also put some of that money in the fund balance because we knew it's going to take a few years to balance out teachers' pay. So on paper, our budget is $500,000 over budget. And again, that over budget by $500,000 will come out of this professional educated pay, which we have set aside in fund balance. We actually have 1.8 million set aside for that. So we use some of that. Just some data on our general fund. About 82% of our budget goes to salary and benefits. And that's pretty normal for a school district, but 82%. And we have to allocate, I mentioned special ed aid is not nearly above what we should get for special ed. So the district contributes $15.7 million above what the state gives us in aid and federal aid. So that money is taken right out of our general fund. We also want to mention that we continue to keep our class sizes as they have been for many, many years now. So you can see that here. And again, we are not increasing class sizes for next year. There's a lot of reasons. I'm going to shift gears now about staffing. There's a lot of reasons that we sometimes have staffing changes. Sometimes we shift FTE, say from 2 support staff to 1 teacher or vice versa. We do get some grants and flow through money coming into the district. We do have Fund 80, which is a community service program, and separate from our Fund 10 budget. We have strategic budget initiatives, which I've talked about already. And sometimes we have enrollment that goes up or down. Even though our enrollment is slightly projected to go down, we have certain grades at the elementary, middle school, and high school that might be going up and other grades going down. So we really track enrollment almost daily, and teachers, if we need to add teachers or not, we track that very closely. So a summary of that staffing changes, we're adding 5 professional ed or teachers, 1 support staff. We're admin support is going down 1.8, administration is going up 3. On administration, that's really a shift from admin support. You heard me talk about that before. So it's not that we're adding 3 new positions for administrators, but it's really a shift from admin support. And then you can see where kind of the categories of where that money's, or not money, the area. So a lot of it is enrollment, but there are some budget initiatives that also popped up in a total staffing increase of 7.2. So now shifting gears to the compensation for our employees, and remember that salary and benefits are a matter reserved for board action. So what you see in front of you is what I'm putting into the budget, but obviously at the end result will be this is reserved for board action. But it's kind of like a chicken and egg. I need to have something in the budget so I can keep moving forward with the budget, but we do know that salary and benefits are a matter reserved for board action. So for teachers, the budget includes a 4.7% salary increase. Teachers also who have completed 24 hours of professional development would get another or additional $550. So if you add up the 4.7 plus the PD, really the total salary increase for teachers in the budget is 5.6%, 5.6% for professional educators. For support staff, admin support, and administrative, it is at 4.7% cost of living in the budget. All those groups have a much smaller PD increase. So you can see the salary increases for support staff would be about 5%, admin support 5%, administrative about 5% when you add in that PD. And I didn't read off those amounts, but you can see those amounts for all those different groups too. So another big discussion we've been having with health insurance committee and the school board is what are we doing for health insurance? So the current budget that I've put together, 5% in health insurance, but you have to remember health insurance, the rate goes up January 1st. So a 5% really is only a 2.5% for this fiscal year. Obviously at 5% over a course of a year, but for how our budget works, it's only 2.5% for this fiscal year. The final increase is again to be determined by the school board. We spend about $12.4 million on health insurance. Dental insurance is projected to go up 0%, $1.4 million for dental insurance. We have received our WRS rate for next year. That's projected to go up 0.1%. And the total budget for WRS is $5.4 million. And as I'm saying these numbers, I feel bad. There's a lot of numbers obviously in a budget, and then I don't want to say too many numbers, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with a budget, there's a lot of things to talk about with percentages and budgets. So when we talk about total compensation, when we look at both the salaries and the benefits that we're giving these groups, I won't go over these amounts because again, I think I'm giving you too many numbers, but you can see the amounts that all those different groups get for a salary and benefit package. So our Fund 10 operating budget is revenue 129 million, expense 129.6 million. Again, remember, I think I said it's $500,000 to $600,000 we will use from that professional educators fund balance. So again, that's why our budget is about $600,000 over, and that's going to come from that designated fund balance that we have for professional educators. So that's a general fund, which we spend most of our time on and most of our expenses come from, but we do have a debt levy. Debt levy is for the voter approved referendum building projects in the past, which of course for Sun Prairie, that's a lot. We have a 20.2 million levy for debt service. And there is a $3 million transfer coming in from Fund 10. If people have questions about that, I can get into that, but that just has to deal with that operating referendum that we passed on November 8th. And then just a reminder or a note that all the secondary space borrowing is done. So that's everything is included in our debt levy now, all building projects. As I mentioned at the start, we do also have a community service levy, or what sometimes I refer to as a Fund 80 levy. Programs within this fund are the community schools, custodians for after-school events, facility rental coordinator, performing arts center assistant manager, the pool assistant managers, and community liaison. So the projected levy budget for the community service levy is $914,000, and we still have some carryover in Fund 80 that we'll be using to reduce the levy that was needed there. The projected total levy for the budget is, you can see these general fund going down by about $500,000. Part of that is that big increase in equalized aid the district's getting. Our debt levy is going up by 3.7 million, but a lot of that has to do with that transfer from Fund 10 to Fund 30. Again, I can explain that if people need to. Community service levy going up by 136,000. Total levy going up by about 5%, 4.7%. But with our projected 6% property value growth, and we'll see where that comes in on October 1st, maybe hopefully more than 6%, we would project our mill rate now to be $10.38, which would be a decrease from last year. So the last few charts here, this data does come from Forecast 5. We really want to look at our fund balance and how that compares to other districts. Remember, fund balance, you need that for emergency circumstances or stuff that might come up, or you need that also just so you don't have to do so much short-term borrowing, which that'd be great if we could get out of the short-term borrowing. We're not there yet, but we're getting closer. So with that, these are 7 districts that are above and below us in size, so pretty much our comparables and enrollments. You can see Sun Prairie, we have a 22.2% fund balance, which means if you take our total budget and then how much we have in fund balance, what percent of it is. And you can see we're at the lower end of comparables. I will say over the last few years, we've bumped up. So we're not at the bottom. That's good. But you can see where other districts, again, have quite a bit more fund balance than us. And that really helps them that they don't need a short-term borrowing. But on this next chart, you'll see that even though we're on the lower end of this chart, we have built up our fund balance over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a focus of you, the school board and the community, to build up our fund balance a little bit. So we're doing that. And I will add that that fund balance will probably go up closer to 23% for this next year. So up again, just slightly. So again, really good news on our fund balance. So what's going to happen now, or in the future, I should say. So we'll continue to monitor the budgets that we're just finishing last year's and adjust the next year's budget. See, there's a lot of moving parts in a budget. We need to make sure that next year's, when I say next year, the 23-24 budget is adjusted as needed. We'll have a public hearing on the proposed budget at the school board meeting on August 14th. Hopefully on August 28th, the school board will act on that proposed budget. October 2nd, we'll have our annual meeting with electors to set the levy. And then a lot of stuff happens in October, but by the October 31st, the school board needs to adopt the original budget. So as always, again, I feel bad. There's a lot of percentages, a lot of numbers in there. If you have any questions ahead of the meeting, I'd appreciate that. And then I'll see you Monday night. Thank you.